matches the front and the back and the development we've done there. So this sleeve, because it's a close fitting bodice block pattern, it's with a very high sleeve head. It's narrow, tapered, shaped, as you can see here, and we're going to change that. But in order to align it to the way it was taught classically with pen and paper, I'm going to keep some of this sleeve so we can see what happens as we move along. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to, just as I lowered here 7 centimeters, I need to lower these points here further down. And the rule of thumb goes that for every centimeter I lower on the body, I have to correspond that with half the amount over here. So when I lower 7 centimeters, I need to lower these 3.5 centimeters. So I right click on it with my edit pattern tool, and I say offset as internal line to create a line that I can use for placing the points on later. And I plot in 3.5 and make sure that reverse direction is ticked off so it doesn't end up here instead. So I tick off reverse and I say okay. So for now I'm just gonna lock this one here so I don't get to move it in a way I don't want to right now. So now it's just locked and I can unlock it later. I also want to get rid of this line here, and I would like to have a point up here. Right now, if I click on my sleeve head, you can see it. It's a continuous line running from this point to this point, but I want a point here right in the middle, and that I can create very exactly by right-clicking this middle line and said extend trim and add point to pattern outline. Now when I click on this line here, I can see it only runs from this point to this, and the same over here on the other side. So now I do have a point here, and I want that, and I have a point down here as well. I want that because I actually want to get rid of all of this half here. I'll show you as I get along here. But first of all, I want to be able to move that point also down the amount that is needed to take off, because we added here. And the rule of thumb goes that if you add X amount of centimeters here, you take off up to double as much on the sleeve head. It depends on the kind of shape, it depends on the development, so test it, try it out and see what works. I have worked on this one here and found out that actually it works with the double the amount. So as we have 2 centimeters added to the shoulder seam, I would have to lower this by 4 centimeters. So I click on the point, and because I both have an internal line and a pattern line lying or point lying on top of each other, I need now to click on the pattern. So now the pattern point is the active and I can move that. So I click on that and I move it down and I right click, get this pop-up box, and I can now say I want to move it here in the distance 4 centimeters, and I make sure there's nothing moved on the X axis, and I say yes to this. So this is the beginning of my sleeve pattern to be. I've lowered now the sleeve head the amount that was required, and now I'm going to tidy up the rest of the things. So I'm going to start out by first taking off like all the half side here of it. I want to also get rid of this point here, so I just have one straight continuous line, and I want to get rid of these 3 points here again, so I just have one straight line. Now I need to know the length of my sleeve hole on the front, and when I click it I can see it's 27.56, and I need this length to be the same here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to right click it and say change length, making sure I'm moving in the right direction, which in this case means I need to use the pop down here and click end. and then here I write 27.56 and say OK to that. So now these two are the same length now. Because the sleeve hole is so deep, we don't need some extra ease. We just go with the same. If it weren't that deep, I would add 0.5 centimeter to the sleeve side in order to give some ease and some room for movement. But for right now, this is what we need. And then what we're going to do now is that we're going to fold it up. I'm going to actually, before I do anything else, I'm going to right click and say unlock all internal lines. So now I can use this here again. I can extend it and I can say change length, and I can say I want it to be 60 centimeters and I want it to be added in both ends. And I'm doing this now because this allows me to move this line here where I need it. So this was 27.56 and I move it out to be as close as I can to that. 27.53. I couldn't do that more accurately on paper if I tried with the graphite. Okay, good. Now what I'm going to do now, I am going to unfold this here from the middle. I'm going to copy it out in a way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this line. I now need to use the pattern line, and I right click on it and I say unfold. Now we have a symmetric pattern, and now we can make the little adjustments that need to be done as well. And I think I'm going to start out by getting rid of one of the lines. We don't have both to fiddle with. Okay, so now we need to check what is the length of the back here, and that is 29.83. So 29.83 is the length I want. 29.83, and I have made sure that the arrow was in this length here, at this end here. And I go OK. So I'm going to move this up here on the same line, 29.83. There it is. Good. So next thing I want to do, I want to add some shape. I cannot possibly sew this onto my curve here. I need to add some shape to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the line and I'm going to say split. And I want a uniform split, so it's the same length it's split into. And I want the number of segments to be 3. So now I have 1, 2, 3 segments. And I say OK to that. As you can see, now I went from 1 line to 3 lines joined up together. I'm actually not going to use this point here, but I just needed this one here accurately. So I'm going to delete this one here. Next thing I'm going to do the same on the other side. Split, uniform, 3, OK. And then I'm going to get rid of this. We do this on paper as well. We just use it. We're just going to add the curve. We would add the curve differently than we do here. So this is what we do. Now I need to make some curves both here, a little bit deeper curve than over on the back, and then the curve up here. So I go to under my edit pattern tool, I have my edit curvature tool. And I'm going to place my cursor kind of in the middle of this line. And I'm going to drop it down so it has a curve, looking a bit like this. And then I'm also over here, I'm going to place and I'm going to push up instead. Make sure not to, this is way too high because the highest point has to be the middle of the sleeve. But so it's not going too steep or anything like that. We're just literally just adding a little bit of curve like that. So it has a nice continuous curve here. And now I'm going to do the same on the back, but I'm going to place my cursor like 1/3 from the point here and then drag it down because I want a more flat curve than I had over here. Sort of a steeper ski slope here than it is here on the back. Again, it leaves us more fabric to move our arms in front of us. And then I'm gonna do the final curve up here, and as I do that, the other curve will start moving. So we just gently, with little finger steps, make sure we have a curve like that. Okay, so now we have sleeve hole and sleeve head, and next thing we want to move a little bit more. We want to add some more fabric down here and also down here at the bottom.